William Rufus was dead. His elder brother Robert was still returning from crusade. Henry saw his opportunity and moved with astonishing speed. Within just 3 days, the conqueror's youngest son was King of England. Henry had once seemed the least fortunate of the conqueror's sons. Robert received Normandy. William gained England. Henry inherited money, but no land. Yet the youngest brother would ultimately outmaneuver them both. But Henry's crown was far from secure. Robert Curhos returned from crusade with prestige, supporters, and the stronger hereditary claim as the eldest brother. England now faced the possibility of another Norman family war. Henry knew speed alone could not secure his throne. His coronation charter promised to correct abuses of royal power and respect established rights, a calculated attempt to win the church and powerful nobles to his side. Henry also married Matilda of Scotland, descended from England's old Anglo-Saxon royal house. The marriage strengthened his legitimacy and symbolically joined the Norman dynasty with the royal line it had replaced in 1066. In 1101, Robert crossed the Channel with an army to challenge Henry for England. Once again, two sons of William the Conqueror stood on the brink of war over their father's divided inheritance. England seemed headed for another civil war. But instead of immediately fighting, the brothers negotiated. The agreement they reached would preserve Henry's crown for now, but their rivalry was nowhere near finished. Robert's arrival placed Henry's position in real danger. Several powerful barons supported his elder brother's claim, and as both sides gathered supporters, England once again seemed dangerously close to conflict between the conqueror's sons. Instead of fighting, the brothers negotiated at Alton. Robert recognized Henry as King of England, while Henry agreed to provide him with an annual payment. For the moment, another Norman civil war had been avoided. The peace proved fragile. Disputes over rebellious nobles and Robert's weak control of Normandy steadily damaged their relationship. Henry increasingly saw his brother's duchy not merely as a threat, but as an opportunity. Henry began intervening directly in Normandy, building alliances with Robert's enemies and taking strategic positions. What had started as a struggle to defend his English crown was becoming a campaign to seize his brother's duchy. By September 1106, the rivalry had reached a decisive moment. Near Tinchebray in Normandy, Henry and Robert gathered opposing forces. 39 years after Hastings, another battle would determine the Norman world. At Tinchebray, Henry won a decisive victory. Robert's army collapsed, and the Duke of Normandy was captured. In a single day, Henry had defeated his elder brother and reunited England with Normandy. Robert would spend the rest of his long life in captivity, dying nearly 3 decades later. Henry now controlled both England and Normandy. The inheritance his father had divided 19 years earlier was reunited. Henry had defeated his last surviving rival for the Norman inheritance. But conquering power was only part of his achievement. He would now build one of medieval England's most sophisticated systems of royal government. Henry understood that a kingdom could not be ruled by military strength alone. He strengthened royal government, demanded careful financial administration, and developed institutions that allowed the crown to exercise authority across England. Under Henry, the royal exchequer developed into an increasingly sophisticated system for managing the king's finances. Officials carefully tracked revenues and payments, helping make royal government more organized, predictable, and powerful. Henry also strengthened royal justice. His officials traveled through the kingdom, investigated disputes, and enforced the king's authority. Slowly, government was becoming something that could reach far beyond the walls of the royal court. Henry became known as Beauclerc, the well-educated scholar. Whether the nickname fully reflected his learning or not, his reign developed a reputation for careful administration, calculation, and unusually effective royal government. Henry's government helped connect the king more closely to his realm. Money, information, and royal orders traveled across England with increasing efficiency, laying foundations that later generations of English kings would continue to develop. Later writers remembered Henry's reign as a period of strong royal order, but that stability depended on a demanding monarchy. Henry could be calculating and severe when his authority or interests were threatened. Henry had built a powerful monarchy and reunited his father's lands. His dynasty appeared secure as well. He had a legitimate son and heir, but one night in 1120 would change everything. By 1120, Henry's succession appeared secure. His only legitimate son, William Adelin, was being prepared to inherit England and Normandy. The conqueror's dynasty seemed certain to continue into another generation. On 25 November, William prepared to cross from Barfleur to England aboard a celebrated new vessel, the White Ship. Around him travelled many young members of the Anglo-Norman aristocracy. Henry I departed separately, leaving William and the elite behind. The White Ship departed after darkness had fallen. Accounts describe a lively atmosphere aboard, and the crew reportedly hoped to overtake the king's vessel. Instead, their journey would last only a short time. Shortly after leaving Barfleur, the White Ship struck the submerged Quilleboeuf rock. The vessel was fatally damaged, and within a short time, one of medieval England's greatest maritime disasters was unfolding. William was reportedly placed aboard a small boat, but turned back after hearing that his half-sister Matilda was still in danger. The attempt failed. Henry's only legitimate son would never reach England. Almost everyone aboard was lost. Among the dead were members of some of the most powerful families in the Anglo-Norman world. According to the traditional account, only one man, a butcher from Rouen, survived. For days, no one dared tell Henry that his son was dead. When the news finally reached him, chroniclers described overwhelming grief. More importantly, the king's carefully planned succession had been destroyed overnight. Henry still had children, but no surviving legitimate son. The White Ship had transformed a personal tragedy into a political crisis. Now one question threatened the future of the kingdom: who would inherit England? Henry would spend the remaining years of his reign trying to answer that question. His solution was revolutionary. England's great nobles would be asked to recognize his daughter Matilda as his heir. With his son gone, Henry turned to his daughter Matilda. She had been married to the Holy Roman Emperor and carried the prestigious title of Empress. Now Henry intended her to inherit his kingdoms. A woman ruling England in her own right had no established precedent. Henry therefore demanded that his leading nobles and bishops swear solemn oaths to recognize Matilda as his legitimate successor. In 1127, Henry gathered his leading subjects and required them to recognize Matilda as his heir. Among those who swore allegiance was her cousin Stephen of Blois, a promise that would later become enormously important. Henry then married Matilda to Geoffrey of Anjou. The marriage offered important political advantages, but many Norman nobles distrusted Anjou, a traditional rival. Henry's solution had created problems of its own. In 1133, Matilda gave birth to a son named Henry. The aging king finally had a grandson who could continue his bloodline, the child who would eventually become one of England's most powerful monarchs. Henry spent his final years trying to protect Matilda's succession, yet relations between the king, his daughter, and Geoffrey were not always easy. When Henry died, loyalty to his carefully arranged settlement would immediately be tested. On parchment, Henry's plan appeared clear. Matilda was his chosen heir, and the great men of the realm had sworn to support her. But another member of the conqueror's family was waiting nearby. Henry had spent years trying to prevent another succession crisis, but in December 1135, the king suddenly died in Normandy. Before Matilda could secure England, Stephen of Blois made his move. By late 1135, Henry was 67 and still governing his territories in Normandy. Then, at Lyon-la-Forêt, the aging king suddenly became seriously ill. After 35 years on England's throne, his reign was ending. On 1 December 1135, Henry I died in Normandy. He left behind a wealthy and powerful monarchy, but no legitimate surviving son. Everything now depended upon whether his nobles would honor their oaths to Matilda. News traveled quickly. Matilda was Henry's designated successor, but she was across the Norman frontier and not positioned to take immediate control. England's throne was suddenly vulnerable, and events began moving rapidly. Henry's nephew Stephen acted first. Crossing rapidly to England, he presented himself as a candidate who could provide immediate stability. Speed had helped Henry seize the throne in 1100. Now it would help Stephen. Stephen gained crucial support, including that of his brother Henry, Bishop of Winchester. Access to the royal treasury and administrative machinery strengthened his position. Before Matilda could respond, Stephen was becoming England's effective ruler. Many nobles had sworn to support Matilda. Yet succession was never simply a matter of written promises. With Stephen physically present and gathering support, Henry's carefully constructed settlement began to unravel almost immediately. On 22 December 1135, just 3 weeks after Henry's death, Stephen was crowned King of England. Matilda had lost the first contest for the throne before she had even reached the kingdom. Henry had spent decades creating order and securing his dynasty. Within weeks of his death, that settlement was collapsing. Stephen had the crown, but Matilda had not abandoned her claim to her father's kingdom. The youngest son of William the Conqueror had reunited England and Normandy and built a formidable monarchy, but his failure to leave a surviving male heir would plunge the next generation into a struggle for the crown.